Lena. For the first half of the day we see no evidence of troops, and it occurs to me that Lou might have been lying. I feel a welling of hope, maybe the camp won't be attacked after all, and Pippa will be fine. Of course there's still the problem of the damned river, but Pippa will figure it out. She's like Raven, born to survive. But in the afternoon, we hear shouting in the distance. Tak holds up a hand and gestures for silence. We all freeze, and then when Tak motions, disperse into the woods. Julian has adjusted to the wilds well, and to our need for camouflage. 1 second he is standing next to me. The next he has melted behind a small group of trees. The others vanish just as quickly. I duck behind an old concrete wall, which appears to have been dropped randomly from above. I wonder what kind of structure it used to belong to. And suddenly, I have a memory of the story Julian told me when we were imprisoned together of a girl named Dorothy whose house spirals up into the air on the powerful surges of a tornado, and who ends up in a magical land. As the sound of shouting gets louder and the noise of clanking weaponry and heavy bootsteps swells to a pounding rhythm, I find myself fantasizing that we too will be whisked away, all of us, all the invalids, the people pushed and elbowed out of normal society, will vanish on a puff of air, and wake up and find ourselves somewhere different. But this is not a fairy tale. This is April in the wilds and black mud seeping up around my damp sneakers. And clouds of hovering gnats. And held breath and waiting. The troops are several hundred feet away from us, down a gently sloping embankment, and across a trickling stream. From our elevated position we can easily see the long line of soldiers as it comes into view, a blur of uniforms weaving in and out of trees. The shifting diamond pattern of leaves merges perfectly with the shifting, blurry mass of men and women suited up in camouflage hauling machine guns and tear gas. It seems there is no end to them. Finally the flow of soldiers trickles away, and by silent understanding we all regroup and begin walking again. The silence is electric and uneasy. I try not to think about those people at the camp, cupped in a bowl of land, trapped. An old expression comes back to me like shooting fish in a barrel, and I feel a wild and inappropriate desire to laugh. That's what they are, all those invalids, wild-eyed, pale-bellied fishes, rolling up toward the sun, as good as dead. We make it to the safe house in slightly more than 12 hours. The sun has made a complete revolution, and is now sinking down over the trees, breaking up into watery streaks of yellow and orange. It reminds me of the poached eggs my mother used to make me when I was sick as a small child, how the yolk would seep across the plate, a vivid and startling gold, and I feel a sharp stab of homesickness. I'm not even sure whether I'm missing my mother, or simply the old routine of my life, a life of school and playdates and rules that kept me safe. Boundaries and borders. Bath time and curfews. A simple life. The safe house is marked by a small wooden overstructure no larger than an outhouse latrine, fitted with a clumsily constructed door. The whole thing must have been assembled from scraps after the Blitz. When Tak heaves open the door on its rusted hinges, these two, twisted and bent, we can just make out a few steps tunneling down into a dark hole. Wait. Raven kneels, fumbling in one of the packs she took from Pippa, and produces a flashlight. I'll go first. The air is thick with must and something else, a sour sweet smell I can't identify. We follow Raven down the steeply pitched stairs. She aims the flashlight around a room that is surprisingly spacious and clean, shelves, a few rickety tables, a kerosene stove. Beyond the stove is another darkened doorway, leading to additional rooms. I feel a flicker of warmth in my chest. It reminds me of the homestead near Rochester. There should be lanterns around here somewhere. Raven advances several paces into the room. The light zigzags across the clean swept concrete floor, and I see a small pair of blinking eyes, a flash of gray fur. Mice. Raven finds a pile of dusty battery-operated lanterns in the corner. It takes 3 lanterns to beat away all the shadows in the room. Normally Raven would insist on conserving energy, but I think she feels, as we all feel, that tonight we need as much light as we can. Otherwise images of the camp will come pressing back, carried on silken shadow fingers, all those people trapped, helpless. We must focus instead on this bright, small underground room, and its illuminated corners and wooden shelves. Do you smell that? Tak says to Bram. He picks up one of the lanterns and carries it into the next room. Bingo. He shouts. Raven is already rifling through the pack, removing supplies. Coral has found large metal jugs full of water stored on one of the lower shelves and has crouched down, swigging gratefully. But the rest of us follow Tak into the second room. Hunter says, "What is it?" Tak is standing, holding the lantern up to reveal a wall crisscrossed with a diamond lattice of wooden shelves. "Old wine cellar," he says. "I thought I smelled the booze." 2 bottles of wine and 1 bottle of whiskey remain. Immediately, Tak uncaps the whiskey and takes a swig, before offering it to Julian, who accepts after only a split-second hesitation. I start to protest. I'm sure he's never had a drink before, would practically swear to it, but before I can speak he has taken a long sip and miraculously managed to swallow without gagging. Tak breaks into one of his rare smiles and claps Julian on the shoulder. "You're all right, Julian," he says. Julian wipes his mouth with the back of his hand. "That wasn't bad," he says, gasping a little, and Tak and Hunter laugh. Alex takes the bottle from Julian wordlessly and swigs. All the exhaustion of the past few days hits me at once. Beyond Tak, across the room from the lattice shelves are several narrow cots, and I practically stagger to the one closest to me. I think I start to say as I lie down, curling my knees to my chest. There are no blankets and no pillow on the cot, but still I feel as though I'm sinking into something heavenly, a cloud of feather. No. I am the feather. I am drifting away. I'm going to sleep for a bit, I mean to finish, but I don't get the words out before already, I am. I wake up gasping in total darkness. For a moment I panic, thinking I'm back in the underground cell with Julian. I sit up, heart slamming against my ribs, and only when I hear Coral murmur on the cot next to mine do I remember where I am. The room smells bad, and there's a bucket next to Coral's bed. She must have thrown up earlier. A wedge of light cuts through the open doorway, and I hear muffled laughter from the next room. Someone placed a blanket over me while I was sleeping. I push it to the bottom of the cot and stand up. I have no idea what time it is. Hunter and Bram are sitting together in the next room, bent close together, laughing. They have the slightly sweaty, glassy-eyed look of people who have been drinking. The whiskey bottle is sitting between them, nearly empty, along with a plate bearing the remains of what must have been dinner beans, rice nuts. They go quiet as soon as I walk into the room, and I know that whatever they were laughing about, it was private. "What time is it?" I say, moving over to the jugs of water. I crouch down and lift a jug straight to my mouth without bothering to pour it into a cup. My knees, arms and back are sore, my body still heavy with exhaustion. "Probably midnight," Hunter says. "So I haven't been sleeping for more than a few hours. Where's everybody else?" I ask. Hunter and Bram exchange a small look. Bram tries to suppress a smile. "Raven and Tak went midnight trapping," he says, raising an eyebrow. "This is an old joke, a code we invented at the old homestead. Raven and Tak managed to keep their romantic relationship a secret for close to a year. But one time, Bram couldn't sleep and decided to take a walk, and he caught them sneaking around together. When he confronted them, Tak blurted out, 'Trapping?' Even though it was close to 2 a.m. And all the traps had been cleared and set earlier in the day. 'Where's Julian?' I say. 'Where's Alex?' There's another fractional pause. Now Hunter is struggling not to laugh. He's definitely drunk, I can tell by the rash-like patches of red in his cheeks. 'Outside,' Bram says, and then he can't help himself, and lets out a loud snort of laughter. Instantly, Hunter starts laughing too. 'Outside.' Together. I stand up, confused, getting irritated. When neither responds, I persist. 'What are they doing?' Bram struggles to control himself. 'Julian wanted to learn how to fight.' Hunter finishes for him. 'Alex volunteered to teach him.' They dissolve into laughter again. My whole body goes hot, then cold. 'What the hell?' I burst out, and the anger in my voice makes them, at last, go quiet. 'Why didn't you wake me up?' I direct the question mostly to Hunter. I don't expect Bram to understand. But Hunter is my friend, and he's too sensitive not to have noticed the tension between Alex and Julian. For a second, Hunter looks guilty. 'Come on, Lena. It's no big deal.' I'm too furious to respond. I grab a flashlight from the shelves and head for the stairs. 'Lena, don't be mad.' I drown out the rest of Hunter's words by pounding my feet extra hard. 'Stupid, stupid, stupid.' Outside, the sky is cloudless and glittering with bright points of light. I grip the flashlight tightly in one hand, trying to funnel all my anger through my fingers. I don't know what kind of game Alex is playing, but I'm sick of it. The woods are still no sign of Tak or Raven, no sign of anyone. As I stand in the dark, listening, it strikes me that the air is very warm. We must be halfway into April now. Soon summer will be here. For a moment, a flood of memories rides up, surging on the air, and the smell of honeysuckle, Hana and I squeezing lemon juice on our hair to lighten it, stealing sodas from the cooler in Uncle William's store, and taking them down to Back Cove. Clam pot dinners on the old wooden porch when it was too hot to eat inside. Following Gracie's tricycle down the street, wobbling on my bike, trying not to pass her. The memories bring, as they always do, a deep ache inside me. But I'm used to it by now, and I wait for the feeling to pass, and it does. I turn on the flashlight and sweep it across the woods. In its pale yellow beam, the web of trees and bushes looks bleached, surreal. I switch the flashlight off again. If Julian and Alex went off together somewhere, I have very little hope of finding them. I'm just about to head back inside when I hear a shout. Fear shoots straight through me. Julian's voice. I plunge into the tangle of growth to my right, pushing toward the sound, swiping with my flashlight to help clear the interlaced path of creepers and pine branches. After a minute, I burst into a large clearing. For a second I feel disoriented, thinking I've stumbled onto the edge of a large silver lake. Then I see that it's a parking lot. A heap of rubble at one end marks what must have once been a building. Alex and Julian are standing a few feet away from me, breathing hard, glaring at each other. Julian is holding his hand to his nose and blood is coming through his fingers. Julian. I start toward him. Julian keeps his eyes locked on Alex. I'm okay, Lena, he says. His voice sounds muffled and strange. When I place a hand on his chest, he gently removes it. He smells faintly of alcohol. I whirl around to face Alex. What the hell did you do? His eyes flick to mine for just a second. It was an accident, he says neutrally. I swung too high. Bullshit, I spit out. I turn back to Julian. Come on, I say in a low voice. Let's go inside. We'll clean you up. He takes his hand away from his nose, then brings his shirt to his face, wiping the remaining blood off his lip. Now his shirt is coated with dark streaks, glistening almost black in the night. No way, he says, still without looking at me. We were just getting started. Weren't we, Alex? Julian, I start to plead. Alex cuts me off. Lena's right, he says, his tone deliberately light. It's late. We can barely see anything out here. We can pick up again tomorrow. Julian's voice is also light, but beneath it I can hear a hard edge of anger, a bitterness I don't recognize. No time like the present. The silence stretches between them, electric and dangerous. Please, Julian. I reach for his wrist, and he shakes me off. I turn once again to Alex, willing him to look at me to break eye contact with Julian. The tension between them is cresting, peaking like something black and murderous rising underneath the surface of the air. Alex. Alex looks at me finally, and for a second I see a look of surprise cross his face, as though he hadn't realized I was there, or as though he is only just seeing me. It's followed quickly by an expression of regret, and just like that the tension ebbs away and I can breathe. Not tonight, Alex says shortly. Then he turns around and goes to push back into the woods. In an instant, before I can react or cry out, Julian charges and tackles him from behind. He brings Alex tumbling to the concrete, and all of a sudden they are spitting and grunting, rolling over each other, wrestling each other into the ground. Then I do scream both their names and stop and please. Julian is on top of Alex. He draws his fist up. I hear the heavy thud as he swings it down against Alex's cheek. Alex spits at him, gets a hand on Julian's jaw, forcing his head back, pushing Julian up and off. Distantly, I think I hear shouting, but I can't focus on it, can't do anything but scream until my throat is sore. There are lights too, flashing in my peripheral vision as though I'm the one getting hit, as though my vision is exploding with bursts of color. Alex manages to gain the advantage and presses Julian back against the ground. He swings twice hard, and I hear a horrible crack. Blood is flowing freely across Julian's face now. Alex, please. I'm crying now. I want to pull him off Julian, but fear has frozen me in place, rooted me to the ground. But either Alex doesn't hear me or he chooses to ignore me. I've never seen him look like this, his face lit up with anger, transfigured in the moonlight to something raw and harsh and terrifying. I can't even scream anymore, can't do anything but cry convulsively, feel nausea build in my throat. Everything is surreal, slow motion. Then Tak and Raven burst through the trees on a blaze of sudden light, sweating, out of breath, carrying lanterns, and Raven is shouting and gripping me by the shoulders, and Tak pulls Alex off. Julian, what the fuck are you doing? And everything begins moving at normal speed again. Julian coughs once and lies back against the ground. I break away from Raven and run toward him, dropping to my knees. I know immediately that his nose is broken. His face is dark with blood, and his eyes are two bare slits as he struggles to sit up. Hey. I put a hand on his chest, swallowing back the spasms in my throat. Hey, take it easy. Julian relaxes again. I feel his heart beating up into my palm. What happened? Tak is shouting. Alex is standing a little ways away from where Julian is lying. All his anger is gone. Instead he looks shocked, his hands limp at his sides. He's staring at Julian, looking puzzled, as though he doesn't know how Julian got there. I stand up and move toward him, feeling the anger crawl into my fingers. I wish I could wrap them around his neck, choke him. What the hell is the matter with you? My voice is low. I have to push the words out past the hard lump of anger in my throat. I am sorry, Alex whispers. He shakes his head. I didn't mean. I don't know what happened. I'm sorry, Lena. If he keeps looking at me like that, pleading, willing me to understand, I know I'll start to forgive him. Lena. He takes a step toward me, and I take a step back. For a moment we stand there. I can feel the pressure of his eyes on me, and the pressure too of his guilt. But I won't look at him. I can't. I'm sorry, he repeats again, too low for Raven and tact to hear. I'm sorry for everything. Then he turns and pushes back into the woods and he's gone.